All right, so today, day 26 of the 30-day profit challenge. And again, we're looking at cost per acquisition today. So what we're going to do is just to reframe where we've been talking over the last couple of days. We've been looking at the customer margin tree, and where cost per acquisition fits in is down here at the bottom on the right-hand side of this sort of customers angle of the profit margin tree here, where we've looked at first-time and repeat customers and understanding the difference between what a first-time customer looks like and what they contribute to your cost per acquisition versus a repeat customer and what they contribute to cost per acquisition. Then we looked yesterday at paid versus earned customers and how those people can impact your cost per acquisition. So today, we're going to start connecting the dots between cost per acquisition and another margin tree that you might be familiar with, which was the conversion margin tree. And so on either side of this section, what we've brought in is we've brought in two conversion funnels. The first one on the left-hand side here, or basically on my left, your right potentially, is we've got the new visitors conversion funnel. And what the new visitors conversion funnel looks at is basically the new visitors that come into your business and they generate so much conversion, meaning that they convert at a certain rate to become your first-time customers that we've looked at previously. And you may be spending some advertising to get those first-time customers in the door. And so using that sort of scenario, we've also got on the left, the other side of the equation, your returning visitors, or maybe these are repeat customers that are coming back over and over again. We would expect they would convert at a higher conversion rate and that those would be becoming repeat customers for you. And you're spending so much advertising at each of those repeat customers. And so how the cost per acquisition works then in each of these equations is if you took your advertising spend that you had here of your, let's say your new customer funnel, divided it by your first-time customers of 3,000, and you would get your $300 cost per acquisition here. Similarly, on the other side of the equation, on the repeat customer side, you would have, so much dollars that you would have spent on advertising for your returning customers. You would have had so many repeat customers, and the $100,000 over the $100,000 gives you your $100 cost per acquisition on the repeat customer side of the equation. So that's kind of how we're starting to connect some of the other conversion funnels and other margin trees that we've looked at over this past 30 days. And so let's take a look then on the new customer side of the equation and see how much of an impact or how much we might be able to influence or increase our cost per acquisition, or decrease it in this case, because the lower the cost per acquisition, the better off you are with spending the same amount of dollars. So let's take a look at this scenario. So let's say, for example, you're going to keep spending the same $900,000 of your $1 million in advertising on new customers. But let's say, for example, you're able to take that 300,000 customer visitors and convert them at a slightly higher rate. Previously, in the previous slide, it was 1%. Let's say if we're able to increase that to 1.25%, that's going to generate 25% in additional conversions, or basically $37.50 for you in terms of first-time customers. So those first-time customers basically would then be another 750 paid customers that you received into your customer margin tree, or 19% more, or 4750 first-time customers and 10,750 customers. So you're basically that 750 customers we're realizing all the way through to the top in terms of customers and obviously sales revenue. But also further on down the tree, you can see here that the cost per acquisition actually changes. So if we go 900,000 now over 3750, we're going to get a reduced cost per acquisition at $240. So by simply tweaking this conversion rate and improving your conversion rate for your new customers, that you're able to decrease your cost per acquisition on the actual spend of those customers. See how that math works? Similarly, on the repeat side of the equation, let's take a look at a similar example. So if we imagine we had our 20,000 returning visitors, and previously the conversion rate was 5% here, it was 5% here, sorry. So now if we look at 6% on this equation, that's an extra 20% of the conversion rate, or basically another 20% repeat customers at 1,200 versus the 1,000 we had previously. So similarly, as you do the math, you can see that that extra 200 repeat customers here flows through to 1,200 paid, 6,200 repeats, and 10,200 overall customers. So that's an extra 200 customer, or 2% more customers, by simply just tweaking the conversion rate on that particular conversion funnel. But what you can see here now is that the actual cost per acquisition is going down by 17%. And how that's calculated is you're taking your advertising spend, holding that constant at 100,000, dividing that by your 1,200 repeat customers to get an 83.33 cost per acquisition. So now you may be wondering, what are you doing to increase those conversion rates? Well, there's obviously a lot of factors. If you want, I encourage you to go back and look at the conversion funnel, conversion margin tree videos. But we talked a lot about in there how you could increase your conversion rate by offering different incentives along the way, or maybe just flowing through your conversion rate and understanding how you convert visitors to shoppers, shoppers to buyers, buyers to spenders, and spenders to customers. So looking at all of your individual conversion rates as well, and just understanding how you can make and tweak all those little things to drive more conversion out of your traffic that's coming into your website. So that's kind of starting to connect the dots. And if we looked at it, they're the two sort of connected now overall, you can see here that the numbers start adding up quite a bit. If we increase our conversion rate by 25% on the new side of the equation, similarly 20% on the returning side of the equation, you can start seeing that the numbers start adding up, and it generates basically another 10% more customers in the customer margin tree for us. But what it's also reducing is on the new side of the equation, 25% reduction on our cost per acquisition here, and a 17% reduction over here on the returning customers. So overall, what it's showcasing is that if you held your spend constant, but just work on your conversion rate, you can actually increase more output in terms of more customers for your business. And that's kind of what we talked a bit about in the customer margin tree. But what it also can do is showcase on the spend side of the equation with your cost per acquisition, then in the customer margin tree, you could be spending just as much or just as little, whatever you're currently spending at, but basically just showcasing how those things can add up to be more customers for you at the end of the day. So that in a nutshell is our cost per acquisition lesson today. And what I wanted to showcase as well is in Google Analytics, there is a way, if you recall back to our conversion margin tree, there is a way that you can see those two different conversion funnels that we talked about. If you look to the bottom of that sort of fall off chart that we looked at, we took a look at to see, those micro conversions of visitors to shoppers, shoppers to buyers, buyers to spenders, and then spenders to customers. But what you can look at is you can do a filter at the bottom here to see how each of these conversion rates are looking at your new visitors versus your returning visitors. And think of your new visitors as probably your first time customers. Your returning visitors may be people that have already bought from you, maybe they haven't. But you can see that the conversion rates do tend to be a little bit higher on that sort of returning visitor funnel. And so taking a look at that, this is how you can estimate how you can measure the conversion rate for your new visitors all the way through from, a new visitor here, a new shopper, a new browser or a new spender, new buyer, all the way through. Similarly, you can look at returning visitors, returning shoppers, returning buyers, returning spenders. You get the picture, returning customers. And so long story short, this is how you can use those conversion funnels to measure how well or how far off you're doing in terms of your two different sides of the equation when you're talking about cost per acquisition. So tomorrow, what we're going to do is we're going to sum up the total customer margin formula, and we're kind of going to break it down into two parts because I recognize this customer one has a lot of complexity to it, and we looked at it over the last couple of days. So we're going to first of all summarize how the customer sort of side of the equation works and all the sort of impacts there. And then the second part of it, we'll look at how do we combine cost per acquisition and lifetime value to get your customer margin at the end of the day. And that's going to take us all the way through the weekend with only 2 days left. And so the 2 days, I'm going to leave it as a little bit of a surprise for you. But what I talked a bit about is we are going to do some Google Analytics maybe reports. We may have a few other things up that we'll kind of bring forward for you. But long story short, I really want to thank you for being here again today. As always, I ask you again to, provide feedback. If you think this is helpful information for you, I'd love to hear about it. Answering questions is one thing, but if you want to send me a quick email or quick note, I'd love to hear it. Also, I'd ask if you have a chance, as we're getting to the end of the 30-day challenge, leave a review for me as well. I've got a Facebook page up that I've linked to in the emails that I've been sending you as all the recaps. If you wouldn't mind taking a moment and just putting a review there, if you've really been enjoying the content, I'd really appreciate that. That'll help other students and other people as they're coming along in their sort of journeys to help understand more about what this 30-day profit challenge is, or help them understand more about what I'm all about and what I can offer people. So really appreciate that. But at the end of the day, if anything, I'd ask you just today to always be present, to connect with others. And as you head into your weekend, let's make an impact in someone's life today. So thanks for watching. I'll pause the recording now and I will take any questions that anyone might have.